Good evening. I'm Venkat Pulla. I'm a social worker from Hyderabad, from India originally. And the last 28 years or so, I've been in Australia. And I'm a community development person, and I've been coming to India many times. I'm going to concentrate primarily on the community developmental aspects that we could really rekindle in our country, the country of my birth. So it's my great pleasure to be amongst several of these overseas participants and also distinguished Indian participants from mainstream India itself. The mass upliftment mechanisms that I intend talking about will primarily be around about two or three aspects, but I could stretch it to four. I'm interested very much in beginning this conversation from where we have seen the need for mass upliftment mechanisms. Um, the impetus for mass upliftment mechanisms has come around COVID itself. And from one perspective, from a community development perspective, I've seen a few agendas emerge from that. One of them, obviously, is associated with the migrant labor that contributes a great deal to the urbanization of the country and to welfare of many people who are obviously in towns and mega cities and metropolitan cities. But migrant labor has obviously come all the way from rural areas. That's a very important issue that we should be forgetting. The second aspect that I wanted to concentrate something definitely about is the way we prioritize the educational needs and the health needs of our women, particularly it could start off with the girl child. And every day we start hearing some unfortunate events and fortunate incidents that keep taking place that obviously should be paining a whole lot of people within the country. And of course, we also put to different levels of shame when we hear about these things because people do talk about these even in Western society that India has every 15 minutes a rape, and it does become a major issue to worry about. The third issue that I'm also concerned with is about the way we divide the country, and that is also an issue where mass upliftment mechanisms are required. The Punjabi is the north side, Madrasi is downside, the Chinky and the Mongoloid races. The way we look at everybody from the orientation of Punjabi, Bihari, I think that's a kind of an orientation that we need to probably rethink about the cultural diversity. I've got a few ways by which that is something that we need to be thinking about. The fourth aspect on which I want to talk about is primarily how do we strengthen, how do we utilize the strength based practices that is individually, how do we utilize those things in a country that uh, is so vast, and what educational strategies that we would need to be working through. And I'm able to do this, hoping that I could share my screen and um, certainly talk through some of the things, the mass upliftment mechanisms that I intend talking about. And the migrant labor agenda. What exactly has happened to the migrant labor agenda that we are actually seeing? For the first time, I think we have understood that over 37% of our population, that's about 450 million migrants as per the 2011 census itself. However, interstate migrants probably be accounting only about 12%, just about 54 millions. Now, what is it that has happened to these people? They've gone through a lot of deprivations, and it obviously has awakened the country. And we urgently need to address these things. I do believe social work and community development with the help of University Grants Commission and others, must evolve a new curriculum which will start looking at uh, uh, working with migrants itself becoming a specialization or a possibility of a good community development work. And the Interstate Migrant Workman Act, which is of the 1979, it probably requires an overhaul and a redefinition of some of those points. We would need to ensure that social work and community development graduates that pass out from over 500 to 600 colleges and universities in India need to think in terms of reconstructing their role with the welfare of migrant people themselves. I think investing in migrant workers is an important thing because the profile of these young workers is very, very important for us. There over 65% of them are below 35 years of age, and that represents a good, decent, multi-sectoral, upgradable, valuable skill set that we can actually see. There's also an important area that I wanted to talk about. There's a place for migrant labor in urban planning. We need to bring that up. What does it require? What welfare is required? Are we dealing with these people? Can we deal with these people in a human way? They are us. They are our people. So we need to be thinking about that. And of course, because they are also mobile and aspirational, we need to be thinking about it. The next issue, of course, is connected with the girl child, connected with the women's education. My way of looking at that is every 15 minutes, if a girl is assaulted one way or the other, that is a very sad commentary, not only on the culture, but also globally. It does not give anybody any good impression of the way the country, its leadership, irrespective of whichever political party it is going ahead. So I believe right from the beginning, we need gender education right from preschool. Similarly, girls' education and health as central, it should become a central subject. I don't believe that we are doing enough in the country by putting education through directive principles of state policy. I'm one of those persons who believes that we need a radical overhaul in the country, and education should become a federal issue. The second thing, of course, related to unfortunate rapes and other things that keep happening in India, we do need deterrent punishment. I don't really worry. I mean, people talk to me in terms of you're a social worker, you're a human rights activist and everything. But it's all good. You also need, in cultures where people are not interested in following the rules and regulations, you do need those sort of deterrent punishment. Mass investment into girls' education is required. And again, the last thing that I'm going to ask for is double the discrimination, for protective discrimination, and double the quota. If you can do that, that will be wonderful, at least for some time. No quotas need to be remained for a permanent basis. We have done some mistakes in the past by keeping some quotas, but this is a quota. Even Western world has these quotas, and we still look forward, even in universities, how many executives are coming from the female, from gender. Gender becomes an important issue. The last thing that I want to also talk to you all about is the cultural diversity in our country. I've recently written a book which basically addresses that, and it does give some guidelines in terms of how do we go about ensuring that we have respect for each and every person from the other state. Right from preschool, we require what I would call education for the Indians. Madrasi, Punjabi, Chinki, Mongoloid. That's a very nasty way of dealing with each other or respecting each other. So I believe there's a values education that we require, and we also require the diversity education. We need to have a curriculum through University Grants Commission. I'm one of those persons who will be very happy to contribute in that direction. Just recently, a book of mine has come out in Macmillan, and it's, of course, I'm also looking forward that to be released in India very soon. That Bhumiputra mentality that we have got also needs to go away. India belongs to Indians. It doesn't, Mumbai doesn't belong to Mumbaikars, Madras doesn't belong to Madrasis. That sort of an orientation, that provincialism that we have got needs also to be changed. The last thing that I want to talk about is about the coping and resilience that we need to build up in our society. For beyond the COVID society, how do we go about doing it? Again, through values education, through respecting human life. Every time we see an ambulance pass, or ambulance does not pass at all on the road. So what does it mean? We are letting somebody die. We are letting somebody not receive the medical assistance. I think it requires values. Similarly, how do we build a self-reliant India? We cannot do that without good communication. And patriotism as a value need to be taught right from childhood. We need to bring forward some of these things right into the front through curriculum changes. I'm also one of those very strong advocates of public health approach and social work together to be formed and to be brought into the education systems that we can have. With that limited understanding, with that initial words that I've got, I'll be more than happy to talk to after the panel on education, on skill development, on employment, technology, and how we can link ourselves to other issues across. Thank you very much.